All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Above and Beyond the Accessibility and Inclusion podcast for National Accessibility Week, day 3 of 5. It is Red Shirt Day in support of Easter seals and in support of allyship towards accessibility and inclusion. Maddie, I see you're wearing your red shirt today. I got my red shirt going on today. We hope.
Not
Oh
only is
heck
it a
no!
red shirt.
It's a. You want to go there, huh? You want to start that one. You
Yeah,
want
I
to.
can. Oh,
I can't wait for it to be Black and Yellow Day. Can we? Can we
I can't
actually?
wait till it's
I know.
black and red and white, black and blue, red, black.
I know that they have the song by
Oops.
Wiz Khalifa called Black and Yellow. Can you bring me into that song one day?
Sure.
Let's do
Yeah.
that. Let's do that. But that's a
Yeah.
conversation for another day, Maddie. That's a conversation for another day. Welcome to day 3 of our 5-day podcast for this week, National Accessibility Week. Anthony Frazina, as always, joined by Maddie Dever. Maddie, you survived.
Oh yeah, that was
I mean,
yeah. This is the first. This is day 3 of our week thing. It's the first day I've actually been home in my nice comfy chair where I can recline. And my only complaint is that it's so freaking hot and I don't have air conditioning. But other than that, I'm good today. Which is why my hair seems a little bit frazzled. It's sweating then drying because it's just so. Yeah, yeah. That's the weather. That's the weather report. It's
I
so
I
hot that my hair is getting frizzy.
I could not help to think, Maddie, that at first I was afraid. I was petrified.
I was going to say that. Yes. As soon as I heard, at first I was afraid. I was going to go. I was petrified.
Yeah, I know. But we are on day 3 of National Accessibility Week, Red Shirt Day in support of Easter seals, supporting accessibility and inclusion through allyship. And we hope you guys are wearing your red shirts. I put a post out on social media on my personal page. Show me red shirts, guys. That continues on for the rest of the day. Show me a picture of you in your red shirts, and I will reward you with a prize. What could that be? I don't know, but I just got a shipment of books. So let's see. So
So I'm gonna read something on the EasterSeals.ca website. What is Red
okay.
Shirt Day? Red Shirt Day of Action for Accessibility and Inclusion is a day when people across Canada come together and wear red to create a visible display of solidarity, to show their support for disabled people and their families, celebrate the achievements of disabled Canadians, and to pledge their commitment to help create a fully accessible and inclusive society. And Red Shirt Day is an Easter Seals initiative. It was first celebrated in 2019, and it takes place on the Wednesday of National Accessibility Week each year. And so this year, on Wednesday, May 31st, 2023, post a selfie or a group photo of you with your friends, classmates, or colleagues with your Red Shirt Day pledge wearing your red shirts attire with the hashtags hashtag Red Shirt Day, hashtag Red for Accessibility.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's such an important day for the accessibility community.
Mhm.
Accessibility should go above and beyond just this week. This week is just
Yes.
the week to amplify it, and so that we really continue to do that. That's what you and I are doing through this week.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I mean that's what our platform is all about. That it's about putting inclusion into action,
yeah, and
not just
transitioning
talking
from
about it.
but being
Yeah,
catalysts for change, and
yeah,
being an inclusive community. And it's not just Maddie and I. It takes a village, and the red shirt is a show of solidarity between everybody when it comes to accessibility and inclusion, wherever you live, all across Canada. That is our show of solidarity, and it's so important that we actually make that change. We know Maddie, you talked about it in the Easter Seals event where we pledged to be accessible.
mhm,
That pledge began in 2005 with the signing of the AODA, and
mhm.
it continues to this day. But There's been hoops and barriers and so on and so forth. But like as you like to say, Maddie, like when you break through one barrier, subsequent
Mhm.
barriers are much easier to break through. So we need to show
Yeah,
accessibility and we need to show inclusion because accessibility is not just for people with disabilities. It's an overall benefit. It's for collective
yeah.
prosperity.
I just had this visual image of you and I bursting through a like a paper wall, and we can instead of saying John Cena, we can say inclusion, kind of like the oh my gosh, the Kool-Aid guy breaking through the oh yeah. But that's really it's once you break through a barrier, you realize that it's possible, and it just gives you the motivation to look for other barriers. I mean, you and I, we're forced to try to find ways. I think most uh, we've had to, by sheer necessity, learn how to walk around barriers, how to try to find a like breaking the barrier is really challenging for us. So we've had to learn ways of working around them and living our life on the edge, almost like walking on eggshells, except we don't walk, but rolling our wheelchairs around eggshells. I lost your voice. You're muted again.
You would think I know how to do this by now. Um, Understanding the fact that you know a lot of it is education based. A lot of it is alleviating and eradicating the stereotype and the stigma behind the
Mhm.
perception of disability when the reality is there. I know we talk about the percentage of people with disabilities in Hamilton is 27.7% greater than the provincial and national averages. And when you come back to Hamilton Maddie July 8th, you're going to increase that percentage for us. So thank you very much.
You're
You
welcome.
know,
Yeah, the IQ in both our communities will increase.
absolutely. And that just means I need to get my contacts fixed. So, Maddie, when we talk about Red Shirt Day and we talk about the importance of accessibility and inclusion and quite frankly allyship,
Mhm.
it's almost at times for me it's a little bit of a frustration because almost like you're beating a drum, saying, like you said, like you
Yeah,
talked about that little Kool-Aid image about us coming through like a paper wall and inclusion, accessibility. It has to
yeah,
come authentically and genuinely, and it needs to be supported as a whole.
yeah. I mean, in order for us to get through barriers, we need a bunch of people pushing us through that wall, and also being on the other side, making sure that once we've gotten through the wall, there's a place for us to go. Just like it's just like that elusive button that we try to find to get ourselves in. And again, okay, there are hidden disabilities, there are invisible disabilities, there are disabilities that are not mobility disabilities. There's blind, there's deaf, there's all kinds. We have a tendency talking more about mobility ones because that is our life. I also talk about the lens of for, as being autistic, the sensory challenges and whatnot that I experienced, which are the more hidden barriers, the hidden disabilities. But so the button is the metaphor because it's something that everybody knows and everybody sees, and that's where most people believe that accessibility and inclusion begins and ends. It's like,
Yeah,
hey, we
yeah,
got a button for the door. Yes, we're inclusive. We can say we're accessible.
yeah. To
But
go
it's
to go
as we
back to
talk,
our
yeah,
to go
yeah.
back to our topic
Our
from
very brief
yesterday.
discussion yesterday. Our very brief discussion yesterday.
Right. We can get
Yeah,
in the door, but what's next? Can we utilize
yeah,
the services that businesses provide? Can we
yeah,
do things at an equitable
yeah.
level as anybody else?
Yeah.
But
So helping them break the barrier. The allyship it can't just end at that one barrier. I mean, it's a great, finding a barrier and supporting us is a great way to start. But know that for every barrier that exists, there's several more after that, and it's being an ally is sharing in the life of frustration that we have, but allies generally have more ability to remove the barriers, uh, temporarily or permanently, for those. So it's great to do that first barrier. It's great to celebrate the button. It's great to celebrate us being able to independently get in and through a door. But listen to the challenges that we have after, right? And
Yeah,
um,
and help us
yeah,
remove them.
I mean, yeah. And one of
It's
the
a call to
biggest
action.
ways, one of the biggest ways you can help us remove barriers, and being an ally is bringing us to tables where decisions are made, and not just to speak, but find ways of getting us included in the decision making of these uh, um, programs, access, whatever. Because what we find is when we're included as part of the decision making, then really the things that are being done for us are also being done with us. And they're more likely going to be successful or only require minor adjustments to make them to make them fully accessible. And because we have a lifetime of experience of having things done for us, but not with us, and we scratch our heads sometimes as, look at that, there's an accessible, the stairs are painted blue, and there's a wheelchair icon on it. That is so impressive, as we scratch our head and wonder what drugs they were on when they decided to do
Yeah, I mean it's as simple as not parking your car over a curb cut. So
and another
we can
yeah,
navigate a sidewalk.
yeah. And having, like I was experiencing 2 days ago, if you're gonna have accessible spots, make sure they're close to the door. And so, because if you're leading the ramp to a sidewalk, make sure that that sidewalk to the door is going to be unfettered. That there's no cars that can have their bumpers halfway over the sidewalk, no garbage cans in the middle, or recycling bins that limit your things. Like you need to sort of think these things through and have ask somebody with a disability, does this make sense before you build it? And
I'm gonna go on.
oh my gosh,
I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant, Maddie. So bear with me on this
this
one.
is
And
the
it's not about transit.
this oh, okay, this is the show for
Not
this. Go
about
ahead.
transit. Not about transit. But my rant for today is, you know, we're fully entrenched into the warmer weather. There's outdoor patio seasons. People are building outdoor dining setups. Don't use
Huh.
the accessible spaces or the accessible parking spots to overthrow your patios and your setups and whatnot. Leave spaces clear. Show accessibility. Show respect. Have your buildings and your accessible designs looked at by a person with a disability. It's something that that is my pet peeve over the summer. So we really need to be cognizant of that and address that. You're absolutely right, man. You know what? Yeah, exactly. Because everything is about the bottom
Yeah,
line and the almighty dollar versus the compromise of accessibility.
yeah. Our town did a wonderful thing last year. When we had to replace the bridge, we decided to renovate, completely redo the actual infrastructure of the main street that leads right to the bridge. So they're basically downtown core, and in doing that, they raised the sidewalk level up overall, so that a lot of businesses were now could now be accessible. There were there was no more steps. Some still had that, but a significant number increased. But yes, and so they also widened the sidewalk on this one side. But what they just did a couple of weeks ago is they're starting seeing patios appear in this wide sidewalk, and now the path that we need to take in the sidewalk is so much tinier than the rest. It's like, are you serious? I I I get that you want a patio, but you're making it dangerous for, again, pedestrians probably don't care. It's not a problem for them. It's a problem for us. It's a problem for things, any kind of mobility devices, and it makes just people with canes and whatnot and walkers. It makes a significant longer walk when we have to go around a patio. Some places have patios, have the sidewalk free, and then the patios beside the sidewalk. So everybody gets what they want. There's no need to do that. That's one of the things. Like, it just reminds me, I got to go to that restaurant and say, "Hey, like, this is a problem. You know, uh, can we talk with the town about you just simply shifting it so that the sidewalk stays where it was, but and you just move, that much closer to the thing." Some places do that in town, but this particular one, it's become a problem. And again, it's not thinking the effect, because we're only thinking about cars first, pedestrians second, or bikes. Bikes, pedestrians. It really depends on which town or city you're in. In our town, it's pedestrians. Bikes are like, the cyclists in our town really don't understand that there's a law against being on any sidewalk in the province. You can be on bike paths that are specifically denoted so, but otherwise you need to be on the road, because you are a vehicle 100% of the time. Anywho, side thing, but we're cars first, pedestrians/cyclists, and then mobility, and it's the last thought, the last choice, but it's the one that we tend to have the biggest inconveniences, the biggest challenges, the biggest um, uh, the biggest loss of our rights. There again, simple things, simple things to fix it, but we're not seeing it, we're not thinking about it, we're not testing. I'm hearing myself.
Sorry, sorry.
I
I
got
was just
feedback.
moving some. I'm just
Oh,
moving things over.
ow, ow. You
I'm
know
just
what?
moving things
I
over.
need I need an option in our thing here, so I can reach through and slap your hand when you do things.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, so now we are
Oh,
posting it back. Okay, sorry, buddy. Um, so yeah, we are. It's true. Like when we talk about, the simple things are what makes, the lives easier of everybody. People with disabilities. It's important. It's been a good week so far. Maddie, you were there in Hamilton on Sunday
yeah,
for the Challenger
yeah,
baseball event,
yeah.
which was
With
nice. I did
Sherry
an
yesterday morning.
interview. Ah, that's what. Oh, that's where you were with Sherry in
Yeah,
Ottawa,
I was with Sherry.
because she's in
I was
Ottawa.
in Gatineau, which is the Quebec side. The sister town, the sister city to Ottawa is Gatineau, and it's very French. I got to do
Yes,
an
yes,
interview. I got to do an interview with TVA, one of the French channels,
nice.
and in French. And it was like, I was not prepared to say anything, but I had just gone on a spiel about why these accessibility grants are important, and that we really
Mhm.
need to get businesses and small and towns to know these options. So I had just finished doing this rant, which I believe Sherry posted on Facebook and whatnot. And
I saw
I'll
it.
get it.
Yep, I did see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. But I ended up sort of saying the same kind of thing in French. So I'm glad I sort of went with it. I was ranting with her, and then she said, "Hey, can I video that?" It's like, okay, yeah. I was like, all right, let me get a little bit more structured here in my thinking. So then it was easy to talk about it in French. But it's yeah, it was it's I I I like it that we have these opportunities every once in a while to see each other in person, because
Mhm.
yeah, it's hard when we're mostly, behind the screens. Um,
I
I find the conversations and camaraderie is richer in person.
Absolutely. I mean, your gusto to travel is quite amazing, my friend. Even with the accessibility fails along the way, I truly do admire that. I truly do admire that. I mean, I got to build up a
Yeah.
little bit more courage to do it myself, but for right now, it's what it is.
Sherry said suggested that we make our lives a little bit more interactive, and she was saying I should have a picture of a map of where I've been, so I can sort of talk to it and say, hey, this is where I've gone. This here is where there's a accessibility win, accessibility fail, and it's something I'm going to try to think about doing. At least, yeah, or having a whiteboard that I can sort of draw on electronically and say, "Hey, this is where I've been. This is what I've done." Yeah,
Yeah,
I like to go places. I
yeah,
I find I I'm trapped in a chair, right?
you're
And
not trapped.
that can be a negative thing,
Yeah,
but the way my way through it is by having a chair that can move. So in
yeah,
my house here, I have a computer here. I'm really comfortable here. There's so much I can do, uh, limited by my physical capabilities, but I can do these Facebook lives. I can do Zoom. I can do a little bit of writing, and I can get my message out. But everything else gets done to me and for me in my house. But when I'm in a wheelchair, I can go, I can move around, and wherever I go, people can help me. And that's normal in life. That when you go to a place, whatever the place is, whoever owns that place will have people there to support and help you. And so I'm still stuck in my chair, but the chair is not stuck. That's
the
the part
analogy
that's
that
good.
I absolutely the analogy that I like to use when I'm not sitting in my wheelchair is like I'm a fish out of water. Because
Yeah,
with the water being your wheelchair, your vehicle of freedom, as I like to put it. And there is an International Wheelchair Day that was March 1st as well. So, and I think it's important that we recognize this in earnest, but we
yeah,
recognize the fact that mobility is so important, and it's so important for everybody. Understanding the fact that when we work together and when our voices are heard and when a call to action can take place, there's a tremendous amount of prosperity. One of the things, Maddie, that I'm gonna talk about, and you and I talked about this a little bit on Sunday, is the fact that here in Hamilton, the link was closed, and the link was closed both ways. So that meant the traffic had to detour, which meant the city was more crowded, which meant Darts could use that as an excuse for being late. So rather than being proactive, I sent them an email May 18th telling them that from the 26th to the 30th, that was going to be closed. So what are you going to do about it? I got a response saying that the information has been shared with Darts. What happened? Absolutely nothing.
yeah.
You know, they talk about feedback and the importance of feedback, but where does it go?
You know, um, all I can say about this is this hashtag
Yeah, absolutely.
accessible, because
You know,
they forget that accessible transportation is a right. Um, Yet, I mean that's a conversation that I keep having with many people with disabilities, and many leaders of disability organizations or allies that run organizations that support people with disabilities. And it's just it's the broad public has an understanding and a feeling that people with disabilities rights are being uh, trotted over, and that we need to prioritize supporting people with disabilities at all levels. Now it doesn't translate into change at local and provincial levels. I do feel things changing radically at the federal level, because the Accessible Canada Act has created, as well as the ministerial letters given to many ministers, not just accessibility, but it's many ministers have um, been challenged to ensure that their organizations are thinking about accessibility, thinking about disability rights. So we're seeing this beginning to propagate across the federal government, but most of the needs that we have are, it's the local and provincial governments that are responsible for meeting those needs, and they're failing massively.
Absolutely.
Think think they're doing. So there was one funding announcement made yesterday, or today, well, one of the last 2 days, in the last 24 hours. I didn't look at the timestamp on Twitter, but it was made by a federal minister at a golf course, saying, "Hey, we're investing this significant number of funds in making golf more accessible." And so many people with disabilities said, "Golf is an elitist thing." Like, okay, so even if we wanted to play golf, how do we get there? How do we
Yep.
afford
Yep.
how do we afford even the clothes that we would need to go out and do there? How do we get supportive people to help being with us? Like, there's like all of these things are the things that we need funding for. Funding this seems just outrageous, that people are dying and are hungry and are having significant medical and mental health challenges because our needs are not being met, our primary needs aren't being met. And it's the attitude of governments, it's the
But
attitude of agencies. I mean, it's beginning, like, we are seeing, the hope side of
but
this is, like we talked about in Toronto, we have some organizations, some departments that are really wanting to hear from us in an active way, and are listening and are acting upon the things that we're changing. So there is hope, but it's frustrating,
mhm,
because
mhm.
we're not like, we're floundering in water, trying desperately to find life jackets, um, doors, or boats, or the shore.
Uh-huh.
But go ahead, what's the but?
But you said it. Like, how do we get there? Like, how do
Yeah,
we? You could make something accessible, but if you don't make the path to the location
yeah.
accessible,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know,
Yeah, like, you're gonna have
you
a meeting and you want people with disabilities to join, but you're in a place where there is no transit, and
yep.
there is no proper accessible thing, or you have a stage, but no ramp to get up to it, to invite people to do stuff. It's
I
like,
felt that as part.
I when I do advocacy, when I do consulting with organizations, asking, when they're wondering, how do we support autistics, how do we support people with disabilities, and I said, well, you need to get them involved in your leadership. But when you do that, you have to make sure that, when you're bringing opening a chair at the table, that you have the ability to move it to the side. But you also, if you're on a stage, you need a ramp. If you're to, you need to be able to get an elevator to the building, to the floor, which means that you need to be, clearly demark where the sign is to the elevator, and not have it all the way around the corner, so you feel so isolated. Like, it's not good enough to say, hey, we want to listen to you. You've got to make it possible for you to listen to us, and be ready to hear, and be ready to pivot and change the areas that we say that this will be what can help us. And because if you're not really willing to listen to us and be able to act upon the things that we're saying, it's just performative. It's not real
Yeah.
allyship. It's
No,
just
it's
checking a
just
box saying, "Hey, we listened to them." Woo-hoo!
it's a
P1
disclaimer.
PWD. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah, check out that disclaimer because that's what we do. You need to be authentic and
Yeah,
genuine with your responses. I do a lot
yeah,
of talks and related to accessible event planning.
yeah. Oh
And we
God.
need to be
Oh, intersectionality. so many people that are involved in social justice do not make it possible for people with disabilities to participate because, well, it's like we needed to get this together fast, so we just kind of had to do it. And it's like, well, we'll hear your things, but sorry. Like, you want us to fight for your rights, you got to fight for ours too. It's gotta be together or nothing. Because if you don't support us, we can't physically support you.
Right. That's the importance of allyship, Maddie. So that's why bringing us to the table is one thing, and allowing us to get to the table inclusively is another. It's the path to the table that's important. Diversity is having access to the building. Inclusion is being asked to speak, but belonging is having your voice being heard. And we need to feel like we belong to cultivate fundamental systemic and culture change. But people tend to halt the brakes at that big C word, cost.
Yep.
So
I know
this
is what I meant to put earlier. I meant to put this in earlier while you're having your
my rants. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta get out of here the next 10 minutes to catch them again tonight. So I gotta go on a couple trips because I don't have time tomorrow and so on and so forth. But absolutely. That's it reminds me of our chant when I played sledge hockey. That's what we said, hammer time. So, and it's been a rewarding week so far. You had the interview with TVA, which was awesome. CBC Radio contacted me. So we had a nice chat there. Talking about the celebrations, but also not being neglectful of the fact that there's still a lot more work to be done. We talked about June 13th, 2005 as the day the AODA was signed and put into practice. We should have a live that day, Maddie, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the AODA this year. I just thought of that. Stay tuned for that, folks. We're going to discuss that.
So you're saying it's June 13th?
Tuesday. June 13th. It's Tuesday.
All right. Let's see what we can do.
Well, it's the 18th anniversary. 18th anniversary, not the 20th anniversary.
You said you lied to me? You lied?
Well, no. Well, the 20th anniversary will be in 2025, but
okay.
Yeah, well, sorry, my math is off.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's been a long week.
Edit these things. Look at that. Look at that. Woohoo, it's fixed.
Yeah. AODA 18. We should have a celebration on June 13th for the 18th anniversary of the AODA. But still, and I don't do things that I do things a little bit unorthodox, but whatever. So what do we got planned for tomorrow, Maddie?
Give me 1 second. I got one last little things here.
You got a little Bruce Banner thing going on.
I got a Bruce Banner thing going on. Here you go. Take a look at the banner. Take a look at the banner.
Ah.
All right, and I'll take that off
Yeah.
now. Celebrate good rules. Come on.
So
tomorrow.
We have language and apparently, this is how apropos this is, because language and communication is tomorrow, and using more than just a voice. Apparently, I thought it was the 20th anniversary of the AODA, but it's only really the 18th. So let's use your voice and get the communication correct. So I purposely did that for that reason, to cue up the language and communication. I'm going to go with that. As always, you can catch us at Matt J. Dever on Twitter, at @_Frazina on Twitter, at Above and Beyond the Podcast at gmail.com. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. At Above and Beyond for you, at Above and Beyond @AnthonyFrazina on Facebook as well. Autisticrambler.com, at anthonyvirginia.ca. Maddie, let's continue to have the conversation tomorrow.
All right. And this would be the end. Good night.
Take care, folks. We'll see you next time.